Yes, so, gentlemen of the press, we'd like to say welcome to the special press conference with the CEO of Voice of Liberia. And at this juncture, we will join the CEO, Sekou Sheriff, to speak to the media. CEO, the media.
Let me say good day to all of our friends, and let me say good day to my media colleagues that have come to allow us to be heard again. I want to say thank you very much, and I want to say good day to all of the people listening to us on various radio stations, and those of the people watching us in and out of Liberia. We want to say hello. As we observe the holy month of Ramadan, we just want to speak on something very important, and which we've investigated for months, and then we've during our process of investigation, we were able to uncover something very important in the country, and we think that it is very important to let the public know, because many times for other people, we hear when we talk, and then people think that we just want to talk about people, but they don't understand some of the job we do. Being a journalist that have interest in investigation, we want to bring this to the public attention, like we've done in the past on many other occasions, about one of the institutions operating in Liberia that was granted the right through the national legislature, and that request came from the executive in 2022. And there are things that we've investigated about the Telecommunications International Alliance, TIA for short. For some of you that are watching or maybe listening, we want to know what exactly they're doing. In 2022 of the year in which a communication came from the then executive to the legislature, particularly the House of Representatives, because you know the way most of our laws or issues are enacted, it comes from the lower house, even though at times it comes from the upper house, but most often it comes from the lower house. So in most of the cases, the executive will be the one to pull some of these things. So in 2022, the executive requested the ratification of an agreement between TIA and that of LTA. And that communication was sent to the legislature, a copy, here is it, we share with the media, and attached of it was the proposed agreement in which TIA was seeking from the government of Liberia. And the main purpose of said agreement that they were seeking, it was to, have the legislature to carry out the amended and restated agreement to provide equipment and training for monitoring of voice, data, mobile money traffic, and the management of fraud between Telecommunication International Alliance, that is the TIA, and the Liberia Telecommunications Authority. So that reached the legislature, and said document was being read on Tuesday, October the 25th, 2022, and it was forwarded to the committee responsible, which is Post and Telecommunication, onward to the Judiciary, Investment, Concessions, State-owned enterprises, for 2 weeks to report back to the plenary as to all of the vetting process they've carried out. It will interest you to know that during said process, it was agreed by the legislature even though this document that was submitted from the executive, TRA, and I'm going to show you just to let you know, TRA was requesting for 20 years. They were requesting for 20 years. You see the signature of this? The signature of the then acting commissioner. All of the acting commissioners, their signatures are here. The former finance minister, the former minister of justice, and that of the managing director of TRA, William Samoa. Here is the document. In this, TRA was requesting the government to provide them 20 years contract before revision, meaning when this could be passed before any revision to understand whether TRA is doing the work that they were agreed upon, it will take 20 years, meaning the government had no right to do anything about the operations until the lifespan of the contract was spent 20 years before revision or anything. This is what the TRA was requesting through the executive that was sent to the national legislature in 2022. So when it landed at the national legislature, the committee was set up. Here are signatures of committee members. This committee was set up. During the process, it was established that the host agreed to pass the TRA agreement with that of the LTA. Instead of 20 years, they should reduce it to 5 years. The reason why sometimes people will do these things, I would suggest that if you give a company 20 years before you have a revision, even if they are not performing, you don't have the right to do anything about it. So in the wisdom of those of the lawmakers at the time, they decided to do the addendum to allow TRA to have 5 years instead of 20 years. In the process of such, it was established that the legislature agreed to pass the 5 years. During the printing process or whatsoever, 20 years remain in it. It was raised by one of the former representatives at the 54th legislature by the name of Sekou Rowland. He used to be a former representative of Maryland County District Number 3, something like that. And so when he raised the issue that omission was being observed in the final document that was sent on the passage from 20 years to 5 years, the host decided to launch an investigation into his complaint. Here is the investigative report. Here is the letter that Sekou Rowland wrote. And I will just read you a portion of it so that you can just understand. Part of what he said as to the 2 counts he mentioned in his letter, he said that the perceived alteration was not intentional but verified as an error committed by the printer, and that amended addendum proposed by plenary be inserted. The second count, that the investment contract term of 20 years be rescinded to 5 years, renewable upon revision by the legislature. So Sekou Rowland that raised the issue also wrote based on the investigative report. Here is the investigative report that was conducted by the host, the lower house, and here are the signatures of all of the members. Let me give you some of the representatives that carried out the investigation. Sekou Rowland, he was a chair. Honorable Mwema Bish Mensa, Joseph M. Matthew, Manam Bishop Joseph, Francis Dopo, James Collet, Dawon Gilake, something like that. You get Alex Grant, Eli Atore, Joseph, all the lawmakers form part of this investigative team to find out as to whether it is truth, or it was truth, that there were omission into the final copy of the agreement that the legislature passed, giving TRA 5 years instead of 20 years. It was interesting to note, here are their findings. I'm going to read 2 or 3 of them so that those of the people watching and listening will get a benefit of it. It says, findings. During our investigation, it was established that the omission of the addendum to the amended and restated provision of the 5 years review clause was done unintentionally, but rather due to a mistake from the printing press. The omitted portion reads that the agreement shall be reviewed after every 5 years, subject to the terms and conditions of the agreement. Then, when you come to their recommendation, here is the committee recommendation at the time they carried out the investigation. They recommended that after a careful review on the basis of laws and facts, the committee resolves that the omitted portion be included as it was passed by the 54th legislature on October 27, 2022, which states that the agreement shall be reviewed after every 5 years, subject to the terms and conditions of the agreement, and the 20 years of clause be removed, which says, therefore, an extended portion of blah, 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 blah. So it means the people agree and said that portion should be removed, the 20 years. There should be no 20 years lifespan of the agreement. It should be for revision for 5 years. Here is the addendum that the legislature added to the entire process. Here is it. They said that the agreement shall be reviewed after every 5 years, subject to the terms and conditions of the agreement. Here is a communication written by Metric Sion, the clerk of the House of Representatives. For the benefit of the people that are watching and also listening, please permit me to just read a portion of it. It says, I present my compliments by directive of the House of Representatives in section which to inform you they were writing the Liberian Senate that I have observed through the Committee on Post and Telecommunication omission of the addendum to the amended and restated agreement to provide equipment and training for the monitoring of voice, data, mobile money traffic, and management of fraud between Telecom International Alliance, Incorporated, TIA for short, and the Liberia Telecommunications Authority during the printing process. During the passage of the agreement, it was amended from 20 years renewal clause of the agreement to be rescinded to 5 years renewable upon revision by the legislature. In review of the above, the Honorable House of Representatives is pleased to request that the omitted portion of the act be inserted by the printing department so as to enable the workings of the TRA to regroup its investment and be placed blah 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 everything. So this is a letter that they sent informing the Liberian Senate that, oh, we've done an investigation, we find out that the portion that have the 5 years was being removed. So you please put it there and everything. They sent it. Here is the second communication from Sion from the House. It was interesting to know, fellow Liberians, this is the real law. This is it. After all of the processes that were followed, the lawmakers find out that certain portion of the agreement was being removed. They agreed, they investigated, they find out, and they say, okay, that portion that was removed, let us put this portion, but let's correct it. You will not believe it. All of what the lawmakers did, all of the corrections they made, the same thing that was sent from the executive to the legislature, it is the same thing that was printed into handbill. So all of the corrections the lawmakers made, that this thing should not be 20 years. It should come to 5 years. It remains in it. And I'm going to show to you people. Here is it. This is the handbill that was printed in 2022, November, when the legislature agreed to pass it. They went for the printing of handbill. Here is the signature of the President of the Republic of Liberia at the time, His Excellency George Monrovia. You see it? You see it? The Senate, whosoever, all of the people, they signed. You see it? This is the law. Any of you that have seen printed bill or concession and everything. Now, it goes to this portion that talks about the time or whatsoever, term and termination of the contract. You see it? If you read the term and termination of this contract, the same thing that was written, instead of it to be 5 years, because the legislature said they should reduce it to 5 years for revision. Instead of it to be 5 years, you still have the term of this contract will commence on the effective date of the contract and will expire 20 years. So who's responsible for this when the legislature passed it and said 5 years? Now, this is how bulk of the concession agreements or agreement between the government and companies in our country, this is how they are played with. The legislature will give them the number of years. They work along with whosoever. They say that printer, they say whatsoever. There are allegations that asset rolling allegedly received some amount of money at the time for this entire thing, that they came up and said, oh, it was a mistake. So let us agree, fellow Liberians, if it was a mistake from the start, that the legislature continued to rectify all of the mistakes and say, let's correct the mistake, how did this state come back to be 20 years? That this company will benefit 20 years instead of 5 years. So all of the taxes or whatsoever they need to give to the government, they decide. At the end of the day, the government have nothing, no decision or nothing to make into such. So one point, the committee report said it was a mistake. They said the part that was removed, this 5 years addendum that they wrote, that the 5 year addendum should have been here to say revision will be made in 5 years. And they started operating since 2022. So here is it. So the same thing that the legislature said, no, it should not be there, it remain there. So who's responsible? Is it the legislature? Is it the executive? Is it the company? What did we do as an institution? We decided to reach out to all parties. So we first wrote the company, because of how long the letter is. We're not reading, but we share with you guys. We wrote the company asking them, a portion of our letter to the company, we were specific about some of the issues. We asked the company, what if you were requesting 10 years, for example, from the government, and the government approved and she passed 10 years for you, and then in this handbill you notice that it was 5 years, what you could have done? I'm sure that you, the company, will want to reach out to the government and tell the government that you made a mistake and say, oh, you know, you approved 5 years, but instead we see 10. You approved 10 years, instead we see 5 years into this bill. But this company has received this thing. They got this thing since 2022 up to present. They've not raised anything that, oh, the legislature said 5 years, but we have 20 years. Allegation have it that the company is aware. In fact, they bring behind this entire thing that they've allegedly penetrated the legislature to have this thing, even though the lawmakers then did what they could do to stop this thing, but yesterday it still surfaced in the final printing of this. What did we do? When we wrote the company, here is the company response. The company said, in short, they acknowledged receipt of our letter, but as far as they are concerned, They got nothing to do with the legislature. They are not aware and all of that. Anything that we want to know about it, we should go to the legislature. So what did we do? We wrote today the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now, this is a challenge. I'm challenging the people. And we're willing to provide the pieces of evidence. And I can say to you that TIA is aware. Today is the very first media issue we're speaking about this. I've investigated this thing for more than 8 months. I will not call names. I will hold certain things at certain level. But at certain point, we will call names of big shots that are behind this entire thing. This is not the first time. It will interest you to know, media colleagues, that most of the laws, the concessions, and all these things in our country, they are all fiasco. The legislature will pass something, and something different will be printed. And people erase themselves at the detriment of we, the Liberians. So when we ask the TIA people, William someone who is the head, he said they don't have anything to do about it. So today, we wrote the legislature through the Deputy Speaker, and we want to say, I'm one of the persons I don't like to judge people. I respect the Deputy Speaker. I know he's a person, he has a very impeccable character, somebody that stands for a lot of good things. We are calling on you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and the legislature. This is a test. This is what the company said. The company is solely blaming you, the legislators, saying that they don't have anything to do about this, even though all these things were discussed. You agree, say you should reduce it from 20 years to 5 years for revision. But the company say they have 20 years. We wrote them, they said they don't have anything to do with it. It is not, they're not responsible, that you're the one responsible, that you're the one caused the problem. So it is a slap in the face of lawmakers. That you will do something and say, this is what that should happen. At the end of the day, it goes the way those of the people want it to go. So we've written the Deputy Speaker. They received the letter in his office. We hope and pray that they will put the interest of the country first. It is a test to them. Because a lot of persons will blame the legislature and say they are the problems. So if these kinds of things are raised by the media and they don't do anything about it, then the public will continue to believe that those lawmakers are our problem. So let's see whether that the company forged this. Let's see whether that the legislature forged it. Let's see whether that the printing press forged it. Who's responsible for this? To give a company a year or more years than what they did not receive when it was being passed. And you bear with me, this is clear forgery. This is enough to even stop the operation of TIA, to come back to the legislature and correct it. Because TIA is aware. They have this document. There's no way that you have a company that they will pass a law or concession or everything about you don't have a copy. They have a copy of this. They know of all of the proceedings and everything. They were informed. They are being back to back about how that concession or whatsoever agreement were to be passed. So they knew that it was 5 years for revision they gave them. But because allegedly they are in line with the people based on the investigation we conducted with a team of journalists, they are aware of it. And they even pay some money to some lawmakers before. They pay money for the same thing. So they stay benefiting from it. They could not inform the government or inform the legislature that, oh, there was a mistake. You need to rectify the mistake. I'm told that even the justice minister of this government, I requested to get some of the documents or whatsoever. For what purpose? Our doors are open. We hope and pray that the legislature will intervene, not for my benefit. I don't have anything to do with TIA, but I think let the right thing be done. Let people be accountable for certain things. If it is TIA responsible for this, you'll go and cancel that deal and let it go back and do the right thing so that the government will receive what she needs to receive in terms of revenue or share. but they won't be there making money and then using the same government to do what they are not to do. So that is the reason why we thought to invite you people here. We will not stop on this. We'll share with all of you guys all of the pieces of evidence, including our other media guys. And we sending this challenge again to the deputy speakers and all of his colleagues. Let's see what people will say. You guys are not working in the interest of this country, or you're working in the interest of this country. If you do this, the people of this country will be happy, because a company will not be operating here, enriching or benefiting more than what the government and the people of this country should benefit. Yes.
So my name is Emmanuel to a report for Cool. My first question is directly to the communication addressed to the legislature, particularly the House of Representatives. Why did
that one you can decide who you should? I could even read the committee chair. It level me who I want to read. You understand, right, brother? So I don't think they got a specific procedure where you need to give the letter to the particular person. So today I wrote the deputy speaker. Tomorrow I could wrote committee chair and other people. And you know, if that is a problem, I think that's not a problem as to who they should read. I think that I needed to just bring this to their attention through the deputy speaker, and I challenge the deputy speaker, and I wait to see whether he would do it. You know, he's a person. He has a very high, you know, character. He stands for a lot of things, and let's watch and see how it plays out.
Yeah, my name is Sherman from Liberia newspaper. I think following my colleague question, the leadership of the House matter, bringing the deputy speaker specifically spotlighting him as a major player, you know, in engaging this fight. What do you think would be if, you know, saying respond to you? Don't you think it's necessary to also communicate that with other relevant authorities there at the House?
So the House has its own committee. So I'm sure when communication go to this person, they'll be able to send it over to the committee. We'll make a follow-up from today's date. We'll make a follow-up tomorrow. We'll try to ask. I don't have the deputy speaker number. I don't have any of those committee members' numbers, but what I would do, we'll try to ask. Maybe some of you guys here can help me with the deputy speaker number or whosoever committee member their number, so I can personally call them. But I will also make some efforts to reach out to see what this, it tells you that our letter was received today, and let's see. Sometimes it's always good to give people the benefit of the doubt. You don't want to jump the gun and say, oh, this person will not do it. I believe that the deputy speaker, with the level of leadership he has and the number of years he stayed in there, he understands what it takes. If a journalist writes you, and they not just write you, but attach the pieces of evidence, I think you would take it serious.
My last question, basically, I want to know whether doing your own investigation, at the time the Senate hasn't received the addendum, don't you think it was at that point that the Senate may have confirmed with the House and then send it to the executive for to pass to him?
So this is how it works. If the communication from the lower house to the Senate requesting such, if for any reason the Senate did not concur, the Senate and the lower house should have had a committee to have it discussed as to why the Senate is not willing to concur with the lower house. But that was not done.
I think you probably didn't get my question, man. Didn't your investigation establish that before this could happen, that the House had identified and some level of error?
Yeah.
Don't you think it was at that point or before that point that the Senate had concurred with the earlier agreement and sent it to the executive?
No, it was not. It was not. So you see, all of the communications, when issues are being passed, it didn't just happen like the way they got a lot of processes that it follows, and some things that you will do, most especially when these things, you know, in a very pain stuff, people worry, but sometimes these things are just phone call, oh, please check on this. But these documents are intended just to make it official that this is what happened, all of that. But it was not the time. If you look at all of the documents, the time difference, the date and everything, it tells you that this thing was not even at that point to have allowed the people to go ahead and do this.
So
My last question, sir. My last question.
Yeah.
There are a couple of issues media personnel have raised, including yourself. One would think, why is it so important that Sekou, as a journalist, will have to write? Why are you taking this on the spot that at this peak?
So if you follow, I've written LRA, I've written other institutions when I investigate these things. You know, sometimes the role we play, people don't understand. We are journalists, but you don't just want to be a journalist, you want to make the impact. You want the right thing to happen. We're also advocating for the right thing to happen. So it is not that I have a personal issue. If I had a personal issue, I couldn't have written the company itself. I wrote them, there is a response. So it tells you how I carry out the investigation independently without any feelings or any other thing that I have a problem with them. No. So I wrote them to get their side and they responded. Yes, so I don't have a personal issue about it. This is a case, like I said to you, there are a lot of companies that they pass, for example, 10 years, they have 20, 30 years. This is just what I'm starting with now. You will see we have more other companies. There are a lot of companies in this country. And there are a lot of people in the past government, the present government, and other past governments, they are aware. And this is what I understood during my investigation. They said, when the horse pass the thing, when they go print it, go to the executive and everything, they can decide what to do. There are some people in the past government names I know that will relate to this thing. I will call their names, that did what they did. But like I said, sometimes you want to give people benefit of the doubt. Let's allow the legislature. Let me see what the legislature will do. When I notice that they are not doing what they're supposed to do, we'll start calling names of people and they are part of the play and we'll provide the pieces of evidence about it.
okay, so I'm Dema Cody from Witness TV. I heard you say the agreement was passed in 2022. And from 2022 to now it's about 2 years.
Up to 3 years about.
Yeah. So I want to know, when did it come to your attention that there was some missteps in the agreement?
So it is not how long, because the agreement could be passed since 50 years and I just getting to know about it. It depends on when I receive whatsoever information. So like I said, I've been investigating the thing for the past 8 months. At a certain point, I now had a certain document I needed to do what I could do to get, one of the documents that were very difficult for me to get was this document, which I needed to read because I received all the other documents knowing that, okay, something happened. But how do I know that really something happened? I didn't get the real document to show what is in it. So I needed to take time. Sometimes investigation, if you're into investigation, sometimes investigation takes you up to a year or 2. Once you want to get, you don't want to put your feelings. Sometimes investigation takes you up to 3 years. It continues. So it took me more than 8 months when I investigated this thing. And I spoke to people. I spoke to prominent people. They know, they're watching where they are, they know. I spoke to prominent people about this thing. And some people confided in me about some of the things. And some people allege that Asa Roland, when he brought the thing up, the TIA people did something. In fact, they even promised him, wherever he is, I'm saying it, that they promised him that he did to gain job. So he need to come out and speak what he knows about this whole TIA thing. Because the allegation is surrounding him that he did most of the stuff and everything. So that is the reason why now the same place that did the thing, let's send it back to them. Let it go back there and go defend it. Why? It say it is 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.